Welcome back to Anime Royalty Radio. And today we are going to be talking about anime and if CGI should really be used in some instances.
I like how you pause there. In some
instances. Not all. Berserk. But some instances.
It's not complete crap.
You want to trigger me now, sir?
Yes.
Oh, God. Why you gotta...
Trigger.
Trigger. No, okay. You say in some instances.
Right.
Now, if you've noticed, anybody who watches a lot of anime, especially on Netflix, they have been going to this. And the shows I'm talking about is like Knights of Sidonia, the new Ghost in the Shell, which, why? Why are you going to do that to my Ghost in the Shell? Why? The Altered Carbon
Yes, the
anime.
Altered Carbon movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to say it wrong, so go ahead and say it for me. Ajin?
Osteoporosis.
Ajin.
Ajin, yes.
Ajin. Now, don't get me wrong, I did finish Ajin, and I did finish season 1 of Knights of Sidonia, but I hated looking at the parts with people. Now, I showed you the trailer to Ajin, I'm not going to
Ajin does a very good job with the primary characters, but if you'll look into the background, you'll notice that a lot of them are just CGI people walking, and then they're on the second plane. Kind of like the really bad CGI that they did for the camping scene in Berserk, where it's all 3D camping, but the fire was a 2D video playing over what was the firewood. That's kind of what they do with the people in the background. They're all CGI characters to match the frontal CGI characters, but they didn't know where they were going to be, so we'll just use them in a 2D format, just running across randomly.
But one thing I've definitely noticed, especially in Knights of Sidonia and Ajin, was the fact that the main characters, their mouths looked horrible, like trying to match up.
There's so much more of a lag whenever you're doing it with CGI.
Yeah, it really was.
I believe there's only like 4 or maybe 5 different mouth signals that are used for drawn anime characters, one for each vowel, and then I think an extra one. And if you get that down, it's just transitioning into each vowel. So it's not that hard to draw them, but when it comes to CGI, you really have to get the cheek movements right and the jaw movements right to copy the speech.
And I think that's the problem. But I've noticed more and more that anime is going to this style.
I believe it's fundamentally cheaper.
Stop it. I don't want that.
Well, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it's fundamentally cheaper, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but if you just go ahead and make the 3D model, that's it. You just got to move it the way you want, kind of like claymation.
Well, if it is cheaper, I can see them putting it in like background, reasons like in Ray Zero, whenever you see, Subaru just in traffic, you just see a lot of, CGI characters just going down the street, background characters that you really don't care about. They're just there. And then it cuts back to regular, drawn animation.
And that makes sense. I can understand using it for that type of process. It cuts back development time or production time, editing, stuff like that. I completely understand that. But do I think you need to full-fledged make your whole entire characters, everything that? No, because it looks horrible. The new Appleseed looks ridiculous, and that's on Funimation.
It makes very somber areas really hard to get that somberness across because the character is completely fleshed out.
Or they have no human emotion.
Exactly.
It's like they're just dead face. Dead face, like you are talking to a robot. Now, with the movie that I know me and you both have saw on Netflix, Blom, it kind of worked because he was a robot, but they seemed to they kind of did a mixture of the two, like drawing into maybe a CGI thing to get the characters a little bit looking a little bit better. And it actually did kind of work for the main female protagonist. I mean, the main guy, good guy or whatever he was, the robot, it works. He's supposed to look like a robot. Leave him the way he was.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
And it takes away that living aspect of the character. Like, who was the guy that created Ed, Edd n Eddy?
I cannot remember his name.
Well, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He absolutely hated CGI. He hated it. Even 2D CGI. That's why he required that edited and that he be drawn out. And he mentioned it several times. He's like, with CGI, if you draw a picture and they're not doing anything, that picture is a still frame. But whereas if you draw it, the lines are never consistent. They always have that moving outer line of their body where the characters are still living, and you can feel that even in still moments or when they're somber or not doing anything. They still have a humanality to them.
Yeah, they look alive.
It brings them to life.
Right.
Let's just be honest. It brings them to life.
But with the 3D modeling, it's not really possible. They're just there unless you can animate every little instance or every little tick that they can do, and it's very hard to do that.
Now, as much as I hate Disney does their CGI characters, Frozen, Tangled, all the newer stuff anyway, better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, their characters look more alive. They have facial expression, but you can tell they're CG. They're that drawn CG or whatever. Whereas Funimation, Netflix, any of these newer age CGI type animes don't look good. And I wonder if it's easier to do it for kids than it is to do it for adults for the anime section. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
And also you notice that there's a certain amount of lag in body movement.
Yes.
And Japanese CGI.
It's the old Godzilla.
There's a time and a place for it. Like, certain animes can get away with doing CGI 3D modeling all the time. What was the one you and me watched? It was Princess Dragon or something like that. It had Sokka in it.
Oh, the Dragon Prince.
The Dragon Prince. That was pretty good because it was a very rare occasion where the characters would stand still. They were always doing something silly or in a fight scene or hunting something down. It was a very rare occasion where they were just sitting still. Your eyes were always drawn to the whole picture instead of small, minute details of somebody just standing still or talking about how their family died or something simple.
It seems to be a long out drawn process of like two characters talking to each other in this sequence. And that's one thing I've really noticed with Ajin, the main character talking to the bad guy character. It just looked horrible.
And for an anime where there's a lot of speculation and a lot of mystery to it, it really takes away from the story when you're wondering why that person just standing there like...
Yeah, exactly. Prime example is the new Ghost in the Shell. Like, I understand it's supposed to be cyborgs, stuff like that, which it should work.
Right. The fight scenes and the action scenes, literally anytime they're doing something, it's great.
Yeah, it looks...
But in those few minute moments where they're just standing still, contemplating something important or something that should be a defining moment of the anime, just feels...
a big-time dialogue with another character.
It just feels so dull because they look so robotic.
And that's why, another reason why I don't feel like Ghost in the Shell works. Ghost in the Shell, you have to listen a lot. There's a lot of inner monologue, and there's a lot of hidden details that go with the conversations that people have back and forth. You can't have it looking ugly, in my opinion. It takes away from it.
One of the biggest arguments for it is fight scenes. Fight scenes are great with CGI 3D characters. Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball Z movie, the Broly one.
That was a good one. But the same argument can be made on the opposite spectrum. I know you two haven't seen it, but the new My Hero Academia movie, there was no 3D CGI in that. And there were fight scenes that rivaled Dragon Ball Z, like new age fight scenes.
So are you talking about like old school Dragon Ball Z fights?
No, I'm talking like Dragon Ball Super. Like, they rivaled Dragon Ball Super fight scenes, and the way they achieved it was through dynamic drawing and texturing and lighting. Now, don't get me wrong, there's only so far you can go with that before you start giving people seizures from stuff like that, and you have to have a warning for that. But that can be done in a really tasteful manner. I know y'all really need to see that new My Hero Academia movie. In fact, I would say that's number 2 on my top anime fight scenes.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's also companies that, try their hardest to put detail in the faces of CGI characters. Like in the Ghost in the Shell, CGI, I'm isn't saying this good. I'm saying I noticed that you just don't see much texture, shading, or any really expression in the face. And yeah, you can argue that, cyborgs, they're not going to have much expressions. But I mean,
there are human characters though.
Yeah. Now, in what I showed you, the Altered Carbon movie, you see a lot more, shading. You see a lot more textures. You see a lot more damage as well.
Yes. But therein lies the thing. should the CGI be used for more characters, or should it just be stuck to background stuff like that? Scenery, like me and you said, the Knights of Sidonia scenery within space and the outward, beautiful.
CGI
Straight
3D
up beautiful.
should be a tool, not the main source of your anime.
I have to definitely agree with that. And if they are going to push it to do more fight scenes, that's great. That's fine. I understand because, like you said, it's physically possible to do it better that way.
I just don't like the fact that it feels like we're pulling more and more away from, the traditional art style.
Thank you.
And it's more than just tradition. There's a feel to it that you just can't get with the 3D. That clip that we watched from, I think it was Ghost in the Shell, they were trying to be super mysterious, and they were like shooting over this guy's hat, and all you could see was maybe the top of his lip, and you couldn't see his face. But I could see all 13 of his mustache hairs. 13. Now, granted, it covered most of his face, but there were 13. You just can't get the amount of detail with hair in a 3D model that you would drawing the character out.
You can't get that airbrushed look.
And I thought I was looking at a 13-year-old bad guy, and it turns out he's actually a grown adult.
And here's my thing. This is my biggest thing about this. Will it stand the test of time, too? You put in something... Now, I'm not going to say out there, because you put in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, it's going to look bad, but that was the times.
Right.
We weren't as advanced as we are now. But, like I showed you, the trailer or the first, 5 minutes of the latest Gundam, which is not drawn by CGI at all, and it looked great. Detail in the faces, motions, everything. It looked good. I just do not feel that you're going to be able to sit there and, let's say, put on Knights of Sidonia 10, 15 years from now and think it looks as good as something like Neo Genesis, who's just been re-released and still looks...
Neon Genesis.
Sorry. Neon Genesis. My bad. And still look as good as that does.
I don't think it'll hold up over time, because that's what's made anime so popular here in America, is that 2D format. Granted, we have updated it with some new anime engines. The drawing is a little bit easier, and true, it's not as colorful or not as fleshed out as some of the older animes like Ninja Scroll or something to that effect.
But Ninja Scroll looks great. You can pop on Ninja Scroll and it looks amazing.
Ninja Scroll looks amazing, but as we go on, it is easier to use computer equipment to streamline the process. Is something drawn going to always be better? Yes.
I mean, look at the two Berserks. Let's be honest. The 1997 Berserk looks a million times better than what they released series form. Now, the 3 movies was done differently, and it doesn't look as bad.
Right, and that's a good iteration. It went from drawing to a streamlined anime engine that was used on a computer, and then straight to 3D. 3D is just not the way to get across to a fan base, because the reason anime grew so popular was the extreme detail in the 2D drawings that they were doing at the time in the 90s. Now, it is easier to make it and a little bit more cost effective to do on an anime engine drawn on the computer, but CGI 3D is not the way to go, because you're not going to hold fans that way. And
that's going to be the counter argument, though. Not to interrupt you.
I'm
sorry, but that's going to be the counter argument.
Very, very cost effective. I don't doubt that, but it will not hold fans. I don't care if you're saving $20,000 an hour. It's not going to hold fans. And you can see that through Netflix. People don't go to Netflix for anime.
I mean, I do, because they do Castlevania.
Right.
Castlevania's good.
They have exclusives. But if that's all that you have, you're not going to hold the anime format. Crunchyroll, Funimation, they're all going to hold the anime format. Why? Because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for something a little bit more classical. And Japan, they really honor that. That's what they do. That's the reason they still teach kanji calligraphy.
Well, now you also have, and I'd like to think that we can agree that CGI works for a non-human based animation. Like, look at Beastars.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Agretsuko.
Blama, the monsters. Like we said also with Ajin, the monsters. Mechs it works good with, too, because I understand. Trying to hand draw a mech is stupid.
And I hate to say this, Ruby's bad at it, too. Ruby is terrible at doing the very calm, somber moments. That's why the fight scenes feel so refreshing and good, because you've been sitting there listening to this horrible story about what's happening to your family, and then you get to fight this big CGI monster. But everybody's CGI 3D. It just doesn't feel very
Well, they also have a great soundtrack going for them.
Oh yeah, they have a great soundtrack, and season 3 got really good with the silly moments. There's funnier moments and everything to help break the tension of this is a somber 3D character. Now we're fighting.
But bringing back to the whole Berserk thing, when you said there's a good prime example, Funimation's not making anymore. They did 2 seasons. That's it. Now they can't say it's lack of content because the manga is, as far as I know, is almost still going. If I'm not mistaken. No, that's Guyver. But there's still a lot more in Berserk that they could explore, or they could just end it. Let's just be honest. But they leave you on a cliffhanger. There's only 2 seasons, 26 episodes, and they won't do it again. And I was looking through all the comments about it, and the main comment kept coming up. It's ugly. It doesn't look good. It's ugly. Constantly, that's what it said. Because
I feel like that was made for the American market or the Western market, but it just wouldn't catch because it's not the same feel.
No, I'd much rather. I mean, I spent more money on the 1997 complete series, which is still only 26 episodes. But I spent more money on that just because it looks so much better. Oh,
I think that was mainly the opposite downfall of No Game No Life, where it beautifully drawn, very vibrant colors, something that looks really nice, but it had a cliche story. It wasn't very popular in Japan, but due to the time lapse here in the Western area, once we got it, we loved it. But the studio said, no, we're not making it anymore. They have the content, they have the manga, they can keep going. It's just they didn't have the fan base when they were running it.
And that's true for a lot of animes. I hate the time. Okay, let's be honest. A regular American series, TV, animated, kids, whatever, you usually get it out 6 to 7 months after the first season ends, right? How long have we been waiting for Drifters? How long have we been waiting for One Punch Man season 2? Now, granted,
Season
that's
2
supposed to be coming out.
Now it's already out. It is released, but dubbed. Premieres October 12th in the United States. I think they're airing it on Toonami as their premiere.
But
I think we got slowed down on the dub because of what's going on right now in the world.
Yeah, that's probably true too. COVID probably did mess up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
too.
A lot of the anime producers are saying that they value that their actors.
And I completely understand that.
Same here.
Especially with a lot of the older actors, like you were telling me that the guy who originally voiced Char Aznavour from the original Gundam series had to back out of the project because of his health.
Right.
So the guy who originally did Armor Ray is now going to take up the Char Aznavour. So, I mean, I understand where that's coming from. And first and foremost, yes, you should take care of that first. But there is such a time lapse between what we get. And I'm sorry, that goes back to the whole thing. We'll just watch it subbed. I can't watch it subbed.
No, and some people just don't like to watch it subbed. I got into One Punch Man really late, and I got really used to the dubbed. I got really used to the English voice actors. And I just don't want to go back. I've got that feel about the anime now. Now, granted, there are some other animes where I've watched subbed, and I don't care anymore. I just got a feel for the Japanese actors.
That's true. But One Punch would look horrible if it was fully CGI'd.
Yeah.
That's another show.
Yeah, that would be really bad.
Fight scenes, I understand.
Oh, the fight scenes would be
the
awesome.
massive scale that they're moving on and everything like that. And one thing I saw when Blama, the trailer, come up, and I was showing it to Don over there, is that it said, did not think it was technologically possible to capture the scenes from the manga until 20 years later. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, there are some things you just can't capture that way.
And that does a lot with this scene stuff, like I said. I just don't think it works for the damn characters at all. At all. Well,
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think different, you can let us know in the comments. It's not really our thing, especially for the whole format.
No, not at all. And I'm so afraid every company's going to move to that, and I'm going to hate it.
Yeah,
takes away what I love from anime. So, with that, guys, this is our anime section.
Tune in next time to watch me trigger the Spud 24/7. As always, I'm Aaron Legend.
I'm Mr. Spud.
And I'm Don Juan.
And we will catch you next time.